boy did I get my ass blown out last week, and boy does this chapter even submit what I was trying to say last week as well, is that Kubo, when he wants to, he can do some fucking good writing, and it just submits as well. You know, this chapter, like, I'm just gonna say it straight out, this chapter's fucking badass, and this should have been what we should have had from the fucking start. So we got from that, yes, if people know us all that apology video, a mistake or two was made in the Bleach video, but I still put my foot down about what I pretty much said about 667, but apart from the whole thing of there was nothing in the chapter that I said, there were things in the chapter, but it wasn't that massive compared to other things, alright? So let's just get into 668, which is like, holy shit, let's talk about Zaraki's Bankai. So I know we want to talk about that Zaraki Bankai, but we're going to have to wait a little bit more, because from what we find out from the Miracle, it's like, you know, miracle is my power, an ability which gives form to the very thoughts, feelings and desires of the masses. And I'm like, being able to, like, you know, not destroy the fear of the masses, you know, the hope of the masses, and if it was to break it, fall into despair. And I'm like, mate, who's like genuinely I don't see no Quincy support. I don't see like no fucking like masculine James going, "You ain't superstar," like screaming out that. It's like, no, I ain't seen no one call it you, motherfucker. You just there on your own, just like, yes, I look at my muscles, yeah. And even fucking like with like Hitsugaya, he's saying like, even this is such a great matchup for Zaraki because both of them are both fucking knuckleheads and they just want to do this. And it's just like, even throughout the entirety of this going for it, you got to see when you like see Byakuya and like Hitsugaya, which are like, hey, basically here's the plan, right? You walk around, like Kenpachi goes and beats up this motherfucker. Well, obviously we do that while he's distracted. When he's got an opening, I'm gonna freeze him. And at that point, you're gonna use Senbou Zakura and you're gonna smash him up. All right, deal, we got a deal. You know, it's like, normally a lot of the time it would be like Byakuya just be like, nah, go fuck yourself, I'm gonna do it on my own. Like, I don't give a fuck. But it's like, alright, you know, I suppose that sounds like a plan. I mean, because they're already at like the point where it's like his Bankai is coming apart. Like for what we saw, he's a guy, like the petals are already starting to like dissolve. So we're running like close on time here, and he's just like, yeah, you can count on it, I suppose, you can do this shit. And then they even saying like, well, Kenpachi's already going in because he already took his eye patch off, and he's like, yeah, let me fucking just go. I want to actually have a fucking piece of this guy. And it's just like, even with Kenpachi like slicing at like, he's like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this guy's mine. Like, and they're still like, I don't give a fuck, we're still going to try and attack, like, and attempt at this. And it didn't work. He kind of noticed it at the start. He just went boom, just trying to get rid of the eyes and the Senbou Zakura, and it was like, yeah, that didn't exactly work too much. And it was like, and he's like, oh, you're waiting for an opening. I am like, just like the whole thing is like, I am the greatest, fastest, mightiest of the Quincy. I am the warrior who's been bestowed with everything, and you should never be able to pull one over on me. And I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, this motherfucker. Like, this motherfucker is so far up his ass. He is so far. It's like, mate, there ain't no one cheering for you. All the other Quincy's, they're done. I don't think Archibald's cheering for you. I don't think the King's cheering for you. I don't think anyone's cheering for you. No one gives a fuck. I think Uryu, if he saw you, he'd put a fucking arrow in your eye. That's the kind of situation that you're in right now. And like, this is where the important stuff comes into it. And it's the whole Yachiru thing, and it's the whole, like, you know, theory that everyone's been saying about Yachiru, and saying, like, oh, where's she, like, come out of nowhere, like, why was she with, like, Kenpachi at the start? And it shows that, actually, all this time, she has been a part of Kenpachi, and it's just like, yeah, it's like, where the fuck you been, everything, you know, it's not throwing nap and all that, there's still more fun to be had, come on, it's like, and even Kenpachi's like, yo, where the fuck you been, and all that, saying, you know, and she's just like, oh, you silly goose, if you just use me properly, there won't be anyone that can cut you down. It's just like, yeah, this power known as Bankai. So it's like, so I'm like, okay, Kenpachi Bankai, I might need to control myself at the minute, because the first thing I went, that sounds really hype. like Kenpachi using a Bankai, it's like, and here's the thing, it's like, now, like, this is the only thing I ever thought in this chapter, like, when we was going into last week, it's like, the only thing that's legit gonna make this fight interesting, if they make it, like, if they continue it, is if we get something like a Kenpachi Bankai. And I kind of hate that has to be the case, that the Bankai has to be the thing that really gets me into the chapter, apart from, like, the whole Yachiru stuff, because it cements that he sort of, like, has the same thing, like, exactly like, I'd say, like, from what we saw with Stark and Lily Net, because the difference is, like unlike the Zanpakuto spirits, from what we've normally seen, from what it seems like, is that, you know, she was realistic, and it's like, so is it in the same situation as, like, what Zaraki did? Like, was this, like, did he, like, split off a bit of his soul or something like that? Or it's just, this is a part of the Zanpakuto that he had all along? But then again, it's still a very confusing thing, because we've seen Yachiru, like, use, like, her, like, a Shikai of their own, so it's very goddamn confusing exactly what the whole thing with Yachiru is, like, going on with. Like, we have seen, like, if we're going with, like, Zanpakuto spirits before, we have seen them use their techniques, but it's like, everyone can pretty much see the fucker like that, like, everyone can see him, and but then as well with the whole Kyoraku situation, is like, we have seen it before, but it's just, there's a lot of, like, situations about this, because, like, we've seen exactly with, like, Sampo, like, Keiju, I believe, so there's a lot of, like, interesting things to be, like, cool about this. But if I remember correctly, is that when she actually used the Shikai, there was that, like, weird massive skeleton one, which could have represented, like, you know, Kenpachi, and then there was that weird marshmallow kind of looking motherfucker, which I'm guessing, because if I remember, that had the kind of the same kind of blade as, like, Nozarashi, so that could be somewhere there. Like, we might be getting somewhere with that, I believe, because I remember that. But then again, it's like, we have seen Zanpakutos use their actual, like, attacks before in the Zanpakuto Rebellion stuff. Like, you know, you saw that the whole, like, what you saw with Reichi's one, you know, Zabimaru, that they combined into, like, you know, Hiho Zabimaru. So I'm very confused about that, you know, what exactly is going on with, like, Yachiru about that. Like, I'm kind of curious about what the situation with that, but it's like, it kind of seems like the same thing as that when like, Kenpachi finally uses Zanpakuto, like, after all this time, or maybe for the first time, she kind of did the same thing as, like, Lilynet and Stark. Like, Lilynet kind of returned to, like, Stark, and then they became whole again. So, the question is, what the fuck, like, if Kenpachi's Shikai is this fearsome, what the fuck is this Bankai? It's like, seriously, Nozarashi is pretty strong. It's a pretty fucking strong thing. What the fuck is his Bankai? Like, what generally... Is it just, like, he just makes the blood just come out of his opponent? So, I am looking forward to, like, to the Nozarashi Bankai. I am very much looking forward to seeing what that is. And I'm looking forward to more of, like, some answers. Honestly, it was a great chapter, because now we're finally, and we're getting some answers that we wanted to know about. We actually got some strategy going into this fight, like saying, like, you got Byakuya and Hisagaya going in and saying, okay, no, this isn't a 1v1, fuck you, this is what it's gonna be. Like, so there's a lot of interesting situations going on with the whole Yachiru thing, and I am curious to see what people think about it. But the last thing I definitely do remember is, like, when she used her Zanpakuto, like, when she kind of summoned it, which could be a manifestation or that, there was that weird marshmallow one that had, like, the kind of Nozarashi looking kind of meat cleaver, and then there was the hollow looking one, which I'm guessing that could represent Kenpachi. I'm not too sure, maybe. There's a lot of situations with that, so I'm going to be curious to see what people think in the comment section down below. What exactly is going on? I think it's a great fucking chapter. I honestly think it's a great fucking chapter this week, and that's a lot coming from, I still don't like last week's chapter a lot. Like, I thought, like, it felt like nothing, even with the small little bits in there, but that's just me, you know. I'm a moaning piece of shit, as everyone fucking knows, like, when it comes to, like, Shonen and stuff like that. But this is what I want to see. I really like when it's interesting stuff, and it's like, even if you took out, I feel like, the Yachiru stuff, and even, like, with the whole Bankai, I think this would have been more interesting either way than last week's one, because there's strategy going into it. There's actual, like, fighting that's, like, kind of, like, interesting into it. But then as well, that's kind of the stinger of, like, the whole last bit of the chapter is the Bankai situation, which means next week is, like, we're gonna get a Bankai. So that's something, unless they really, like, Kubo, don't drag it out. Just let us hear the Bankai next week. That's all I want to see. Give us the answers, and the last, you know, page and all that of the chapter just shows the Bankai. That's what I want to see. And, you know, if you want to add an extra page, just taking down this Gerard motherfucker, just like, boom, there you go, take out this little fucking elite motherfucker that's like Hercules, like, you know, get him out of here. That's all it is. But it's like, overall, yeah, like, fucking solid 9. It was a really great chapter. It was a solid 9, and I'm so glad that after last week hating the chapter, coming from this really, really liking the chapter, and saying out my problems of it, and then coming out and saying, like, Kubo just decided to fix it. So that's kind of my whole thoughts about it. But let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about this Bleach chapter. Did you love it as much as I did, or did you like think, kind of like what's going on with the whole Yachiru thing? Like what's kind of like going on with the whole Zanpakuto spirit kind of like situation with that? So there's some interesting things about that to be said, and I'm sure there'll be some answers next week. That's all from me. So I'll be Savagezweipanda. If you love Bleach like as much as I do, kind of, then you hit the like and the subscribe button down below. But that's all from me. So I will catch you guys next time.